Hi out there, beautiful people. I forget I have to project because I could not find my headset. So I don't know how good the sound's going to be. Oh dear. Oh goodness. Well, as I stated last time, I'm terrible at recapping because even though I do remember what happened, my episodic memory may be failing me. Anywho, we'll be starting from page 113 of the latest edition of the novel for this week's reading of Le Couleur Purple. I don't speak French. I don't know why I tried. Anywho, yay. I'm just waiting like maybe a minute or so before I delve deeply into it and start reading. And let's hope these contacts don't make it so I can't actually see because they're sliding around as though they have free reign of my eyeballs. Oh, ugh. Think this is also the first week that I have a guest with me. Um, very, very COVID safe. What, one sec. Yeah. Yes, the guest is white wine. Now, I hope I remember to take sips of it. Remember, you can always comment, share this with friends, tell me how beautiful I look, and tip if you feel so inclined to do so. All right. We are a few minutes early, but that's because I had stuff going on and I needed to get this done. I'm just dying to see what happens next. Not like I don't know, but you know. Dear God, Brady and Mister come staggering in round daybreak. Me and Shug sound asleep. Her back to me, my arms round her waist. What it like? Little like sleeping with Mama, only I can't hardly remember ever sleeping with her. Little like sleeping with Nettie, only sleeping with Nettie never feel this good. It warm and cushiony, and feel like Shug's big tits sort of flop over my arms like suds. It feel like heaven is what it feel like, not like sleeping with Mister at all. Wake up, sugar, I say. They back. And Shug roll over, hug me, and get out of the bed. She stagger into the other room and fall on the bed with Brady. Mister fall into bed next to me, drunk and snoring before he hit the quilts. I try my best to like Grady, even if he do wear red suspenders and bow ties, even if he do spend Shug money like he made it himself, even if he do try to talk like somebody from the North. Memphis, Tennessee ain't North. Even I know that. But one thing I sure enough can't stand, the way he calls Shug mama. I ain't your fucking mama, Shug say, but he don't pay her no mind. Like when he be making Google eyes at Squeak and Shug sort of tease him about it. He say, "Oh, mama, you know I don't mean no harm." Shug like Squeak too. Try to help her sing. They sit in Odessa's front room with all the children crowded round them, singing and singing. Sometimes Swain come with his box, and Hopple cook dinner, and me and Mister and the prize fighter bring our appreciation. It nice. Shug say to Squeak, I mean Mary Agnes, you ought to sing in public. Mary Agnes say, nah. She think 'cause she don't sing big and broad like Shug, nobody want to hear her. But Shug say she wrong. What about all them funny voices you hear singing in church? Shug say. What about all them sounds that sound good, but they not the sounds you thought folks could make? What about that? Then she start moaning. Sound like death approaching. Angels can't prevent it. It raised the hair on the back of your neck, but it really sounded sort of like panthers would sound if they could sing. I tell you something else. Shug say to Mary Agnes. Listening to you sing, folks get to thinking about a good screw. Ah, Miss Shug, say Mary Agnes, changing color. Shug say, what? Too shamefaced to put singing and dancing and fucking together? She laughed. That's the reason they call what us sing the devil's music. Devils love to fuck. Listen, she say, let's go sing one night at Harpo Place. Be like old times for me. And if I bring you before the crowd, they better listen with respect. Niggas don't know how to act, but if you get through the first half of one song, you got 'em. You reckon that's the truth? Say Mary Agnes. She all big-eyed with delight. I don't know if I want her to sing, say Harpo. How come? Asked Shug. That woman you got singing now can't get her ass out the church. The folks don't know whether to dance or creep to the mourner's bench. Plus, you dress Mary Agnes up the right way, and you'll make piss pots of money. Yellow like she is, stringy hair and cloudy eyes, the men'll be crazy about her. Ain't that right? And ain't that right, Grady? She say. Grady looked a little sheepish, grinned. Mama, you don't miss a thing, he say. And don't you forget it, say Shug. Dear God, this the letter I've been holding in my hand. Dear Celie, I know you think I am dead, but I am not. I've been writing to you, too, over the years, but Albert said you'd never hear from me again, and since I never heard from you all this time, I guess he was right. Now I only write at Christmas and Easter, hoping my letter get lost among the Christmas and Easter greetings, or that Albert get the holiday spirit and have pity on us. There is so much to tell you that I don't know hardly where to begin. And anyway, you probably won't get this letter either, I'm sure. And I'm sure Albert is still the only one to take mail out of the box. But if this do get through, one thing I want you to know, I love you and I am not dead. And Olivia is fine, and so is your son. We are all coming home before the end of another year. Your loving sister, Nettie. One night in bed, Shug asked me to tell her about Nettie. What she like, where she at. I tell her how Mister tried to turn her head, how Nettie refused him, and how he say Nettie have to go. Where she go? She asked. I don't know, I say. She leave here. And no word from her yet? She asked. No, I say. Every day when Mister come from the mailbox, I hope for news, but nothing come. She dead, I say. Shug say she wouldn't be someplace with funny stamps, you don't reckon? She look like she's studying. Say sometimes when Albert and me walk up to the mailbox, there'll be a letter with a lot of funny looking stamps. He never say nothing about it. Just put it in his inside pocket. One time I asked him could I look at the stamps, but he said he'd take it out later, but he never did. She was just on her way to town, I say. Stamps look like stamps round here. White men with long hair. She say. Looked like a little fat woman was on one. What your sister Nettie like? She asked. Smart? Yes, Lord, I say. Smart as anything. Read the newspaper. When she was little, more than talking. Did figures like they was nothing. Talked real well, too. And sweet. There never was a sweeter girl, I say. Eyes just brimming over with it. She loved me, too, I say to Shug. She tall or short? Shug asked. What kind of dress she like to wear? What her birthday? What her favorite color? Can she cook? So? What about hair? Everything about Nettie she want to know. I talk so much my voice start to go. Why you want to know so much about Nettie? I asked. 'Cause she the only one you ever loved, she say, besides me. Dear God, All of a sudden, Suge buddy again with Mister. They sit on the steps, go down Harpo's, walk to the mailbox. Suge laugh and laugh when he got anything to say. Show teeth and tits aplenty. Me and Grady try to carry on like us civilized, but it hard. When I hear Suge laugh, I want to choke her and slap Mr. Face. All this week I suffer. Grady and me so down he turned to Retha. I turned to prayer. Saturday morning, Suge put Nettie's letter in my lap. Little fat Queen of England stamps on it, plus stamps that got peanuts, coconuts, rubber trees, and say Africa. I don't know where England at, don't know where Africa at either, so I still don't know where Nettie at. He been keeping your letters, say Suge. Nah, I say. Mr. Mean sometimes, but he not that mean. She say, he that mean. But how come he do it? I asked. He know Nettie mean everything in the world to me. Suge say she don't know, but us gon' find out. Us seal the letter up again and put it back in Mr. Pocket. He walked round with it in his coat all day. He never mentioned it. Just talk and laugh with Grady, Harpo, and Swain, and try to learn how to drive Suge's car. I watch him so close, I begin to feel a lightning in the head. For I know anything, I'm standing behind his chair with his razor open. Then I hear Suge laugh, like something just too funny. She say to me, I know I told you I need something to cut this hangnail with, but Albert get real niggerish round his razor. Mister look behind him. Put that down, he say. Women always needing to cut this and shave that and always gumming up the razor. Suge got her hand on the razor now. She say, oh, it look dull anyway. She take and sling it back in the shaving box. All day long, I act just like Sophia. I stutter, I mutter to myself. I stumble about the house crazy for Mr. Blood in my mind. He fallen dead every which way. By time night come, I can't speak. Every time I open my mouth, nothing come out but a little burp. Suge tell everybody I got a fever and she put me to bed. It probably catching, she say to Mister. Maybe you better sleep somewhere else. But she stay with me all night long. I don't sleep. I don't cry. I don't do nothing. I'm cold too. And pretty soon I think maybe I'm dead. Suge hold me close to her and sometimes talk. One thing my mama hated me for was how much I loved to fuck, she say. She never loved to do nothing, had anything to do with touching nobody, she say. I try to kiss her, and she turned her mouth away. Say, cut that out, Lily, she say. Lily Suge's real name. She just so sweet they call her Suge. My daddy loved me to kiss and hug him, but she didn't like the looks of that. So when I met Albert, and once I got in his arms, nothing could get me out. It was good too, she say. You know, for me to have 3 babies by Albert, and Albert weak as he is, it had to be good. I had every one of my babies at home too. Midwife come, preacher come, a bunch of good ladies from the church. Just when I hurt so much I don't know my own name, they think a good time to talk about repenting. She laughed. I was too big a fool to repent. Then she say, I love me some Albert. I don't even want to say nothing. Where I'm at, it peaceful, it calm. No Albert there, no Suge, nothing. Suge say, the last baby did it. They turned me out. I went to stay with my mama wild sister in Memphis. She just like me, mama say. She drink, she fight, she love men's to death. She work in a roadhouse, cook, feed 50 men, screw 55. She'll talk and dance, she say. Nobody danced like Albert when he was young. Sometimes us did the moochie for hours. After that, nothing to do but go somewhere and lay down. And funny, Albert was so funny. He kept me laughing. How come he ain't funny no more? She asked. How come he never hardly laugh? How come he don't dance? She say. Good God, Celie, she say. What happened to the man I love? She cried a little while. Then she say, I was so surprised when I heard he was going to marry Annie Julie. Too surprised to be hurt. I didn't believe it. After all, Albert knew as well as me that love would have to go some to be better than ours. Us had the kind of love couldn't be improved. That's what I thought. But he weak, she say. His daddy told him I'm trash. My mama trash before me. His brothers say the same. And Albert try to stand up for us, get knocked down. One reason they give him for not marrying me is because I have children. But they his, I told old mister. How you know? He asked. Poor Annie Julia, Suge say, she never had a chance. I was so mean and so wild. Lord, I used to go around saying I don't care who he married to. I'm gonna fuck him. She stopped talking a minute. Then she say, and I did too. Us fuck so much in the open, us give fucking a bad name. But he fuck Annie Julia too, she say, and she didn't have nothing, not even a liking for him. Her family forgot about her once she married, and then Harpo and all the children start to come. Finally, she started to sleep with the man that shot her down. Albert beat her, the children dragged on her. Sometimes I wonder what she thought about while she died. I know what I'm thinking about, I think. Nothing, and as much of it as I can. I went to school with Annie Julia, Suge say. She was pretty. Man, black as anything, and skin just as smooth. Big black eyes like moons, and sweet too. Hell, say Suge, I liked her myself. Why I hurt her so. I used to keep Albert away from home for a week at a time. She'd come and beg him for money to buy groceries for the children. I feel a few drops of water on my hand, and when I come here, say Suge, I treated you so mean, like you was a servant, and all because Albert married you. And I didn't even want him for a husband, she say. I never really wanted Albert for a husband, but just to choose me, you know, 'cause nature had already done it. Nature said, you two folks hook up, 'cause you a good example of how it's supposed to go. I didn't want nothing to be able to go against that. But what was good between us must have been nothing but bodies, she say. 'Cause I don't know the Albert that don't dance and can't hardly laugh, never talk about nothing, and beat you and hid your sister Nettie's letters. Who he? I don't know nothing, I think, and glad to it, and glad of it. Dear God, now that I know Albert hiding Nettie's letters, I know exactly where they is. They in his trunk. Everything that means something to Albert go in his trunk. He keep he keep it locked up tight, but sure can get the key. One night when Mister and Grady gone, us open the trunk. Us find a lot of Suge's underclothes, some nasty postcards, and way down under his tobacco, Nettie's letters. Bunches and bunches of them, some fat, some thin, some open, some not. How us gonna do this? I asked Suge. She say simple. We take the letters out of the envelopes and leave the envelopes like they is. I don't think he look in this corner of the trunk much, she say. I heated the stove, put on the kettle. I steamed and steamed the envelopes until we had all the letters laying on the table. Then us put the envelopes back inside the trunk. I'm gonna put them in some kind of order for you, say Suge. Yeah, I say, but Don't let's do it in here. Let's go in you and Grady's room. So she got up and us went into their little room. Shug sat in a chair by the bed with all Nettie letters spread round her. I got on the bed with pillows behind my back. These the first ones, say Shug. They postmark right here. Dear Celie, the first letters say, you've got to fight and get away from Albert. He ain't no good. When I left you all's house walking, he followed me on his horse. When we was well out of sight of the house, he caught up with me and started trying to talk. You know how he do. You sure is looking fine, Miss Nettie, and stuff like that. I tried to ignore him and walk faster, but my bundles was heavy and the sun was hot. After a while, I had to rest, and that's when he got down from his horse and started to try to kiss me and drag me back in the woods. Well, I started to fight him, and with God's help, I hurt him bad enough to make him let me alone. But he was some mad. He said because of what I'd done, I'd never hear from you again, and you would never hear from me. I was so mad myself, I was shaking. Anyhow, I got a ride into town on somebody's wagon, and that same somebody pointed me in the direction of Reverend Mister's place. And what was my surprise when a little girl opened the door and she had your eyes set in her face? Love, Nettie. The next one said, Dear Celie, I keep thinking it's too soon to look for a letter from you, and I know how busy you is with all Mister's children, but I miss you so much. Please write me as soon as you have a chance. Every day I think about you, every minute. The lady you met in town is named Corinne. The little girl's name is Olivia. The husband's name is Samuel. The little boy's name is Adam. They are sanctified religious and very good to me. They live in a nice house next to the church where Samuel preaches, and we spend a lot of time on church business. I say we because they always try to include me in everything they do, so I don't feel left out and alone. But God, I miss you, Celie. I think about the time you laid yourself down for me. I love you with all of my heart. Your sister, Nettie. The next one say, Dearest Celie, by now I am almost crazy. I think Albert told me the truth and that he is not giving you my letters. The only person I can think of who could help us out is Pa, but I don't want him to know where I am. I asked Samuel if he would visit you and Mister just to see how you are, but he says he can't risk putting himself between man and wife, especially when he don't know them. And I felt bad for having to ask him. He and Corinne have been so nice to me, but my heart is breaking. It is breaking because I cannot find any work in this town, and I will have to leave. After I leave, what will happen to us? How will we ever know what is going on? Corinne and Samuel and the children are part of a group of people called missionaries of the American and African Missionary Society. They have ministered to the Indians out west and are ministering to the poor in this town, all in preparation for the work they feel they were born for, missionary work in Africa. I dread parting from them because in the short time we've been together, they've been like family to me, like family might have been, I mean. Write if you can. Here are some stamps. Love, Nettie. The next one, Fat, is dated 2 months later. It say, Dear Celie, I wrote a letter to you almost every day on the ship coming to Africa, but by the time we docked, I was so down I tore them into little pieces and dropped them into the water. Albert is not going to let you have my letters, and so what use is there in writing them? That's the way I felt when I tore them up and sent them to you on the waves. But now I feel different. I remember one time you said your life made you feel so ashamed you couldn't even talk about it to God. You had to write it. Bad as you thought your writing was, well, now I know what you meant. And whether God will read letters or no, I know you will go on writing them, which is guidance enough for me. Anyway, when I don't write to you, I feel as bad as I do when I don't pray. Locked up in myself and choking on my own heart, I am so lonely, Celie. The reason I am in Africa is because one of the missionaries that was supposed to go with Corinne and Samuel to help with the children and with setting up a school suddenly married a man who was afraid to let her go and refused to come to Africa with her. So there they were, all set to go with a ticket suddenly available and no missionary. At the same time, I wasn't able to find a job anywhere around town, but I never dreamed of going to Africa. I never even thought about it as a real place, though Samuel and Corinne and even the children talked about it all the time. Miss Beasley used to say it was a place overrun with savages who didn't wear clothes. Even Corinne and Samuel thought like this sometimes, but they know a lot more about it than Miss Beasley or any of our teachers, and besides, they spoke of all the good things they could do for the downtrodden people from whom they sprang, people who need Christ and good medical advice. One day, I was in town with Corinne, and we saw the mayor's wife and her maid. The mayor's wife was shopping, going in and out of stores, and her maid was waiting for her on the street and taking the packages. I don't know if you have ever seen the mayor's wife. She looks like a wet cat. And there was her maid looking like the very last person in the world you'd expect to see waiting on anybody, and in particular, not anybody that looked like that. I spoke, but just speaking to me seemed to make her embarrassed, and she suddenly sort of erased herself. It was the strangest thing, Celie. One minute I was saying howdy to a living woman, and the next minute nothing living was there, only its shape. All that night I thought about it. Then Samuel and Corinne told me what they'd heard about how she got to be the mayor's maid, that she attacked the mayor, and then the mayor and his wife took her from prison to work in their home. In the morning, I started asking questions about Africa, started reading all the books Samuel and Corinne have on the subject. Did you know there were great cities in Africa, greater than Milledgeville or even Atlanta, thousands of years ago? That the Egyptians who built the pyramids and enslaved the Israelites were colored? That Egypt is in Africa? That the Ethiopia we read about in the Bible meant all of Africa? Well, I read and I read until I thought my eyes would fall out. I read where the Africans sold us because they loved money more than their own sisters and brothers, how we came to America in ships, how we were made to work. I hadn't realized I was so ignorant, Celie. The little I knew about my own health wouldn't have filled a thimble. And to think Miss Beasley always said I was the smartest child she ever taught. But one thing I do thank her for teaching me to learn for myself by reading and studying and writing a clear hand, and for keeping alive in me somehow the desire to know. So when Corinne and Samuel asked me if I would come with them and help them build a school in the middle of Africa, I said yes, but only if they would teach me everything they knew to make me useful as a missionary and someone they would not be ashamed to call a friend. They agreed on this condition, and my real education began at that time. They've been as good as their word, and I study everything night and day. Oh, Celie, there are colored people in the world who want us to know, want us to grow and see the light. They are not all mean like Pa and Albert, or beaten down like Ma was. Corinne and Samuel have a wonderful marriage. Their only sorrow in the beginning was that they could not have children. And then they say, God sent them Olivia and Adam. I wanted to say, God has sent you their sister and aunt, but I didn't. Yes, their children sent by God are your children, Celie, and they are being brought up in love, Christian charity, and awareness of God. And now God has sent me to watch over them, to protect and cherish them too, to lavish all the love I feel for you on them. It is a miracle, isn't it? And no doubt impossible for you to believe. But on the other hand, if you can believe I am in Africa, I am, and I am, you can believe anything. Your sister, Nettie. The next letter after that one say, Dear Celie, while we were in town, Corinne bought cloth to make me two sets of traveling outfits, one olive green and the other gray, long gored skirts and suit jackets to be worn with white cotton blouses and lace-up boots. She also bought me a woman's boater with a checkered band. Although I work for Corinne and Samuel and look after the children, I don't feel like a maid. I guess this is because they teach me and I teach the children, and there's no beginning or end to teaching and learning and working. It all runs together. Saying goodbye to our church group was hard, but happy too. Everyone has such high hopes for what can be done in Africa. Over the pulpit there is a saying, Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands to God. Think what it means that Ethiopia is Africa. All the Ethiopians in the Bible were colored. It had never occurred to me, though when you read the Bible, it is perfectly plain if you pay attention only to the words. It is the pictures in the Bible that fool you, the pictures that illustrate the words. All of the people are white, and so you think all the people from the Bible were white too, but really, white people lived somewhere else during those times. That's why the Bible says that Jesus Christ had hair like lamb's wool. Lamb's wool is not straight, Celie. It isn't even curly. What can I tell you about New York, or even about the train that took us here? Took up, or even about the train that took us there. We had to ride in the sit-down section of the train, but Celie, there are beds on the trains, and a restaurant, and toilets. The beds come down out the walls over the tops of the seats and are called berths. Only the white people can ride in the beds and use the restaurant, and they have different toilets for color. One white man on the platform in South Carolina asked us where we were going. We had got off the train to get some fresh air and dust the grit and dust out of our clothes. When we said Africa, he looked offended and tickled too. Niggas going to Africa. He said to his wife, now I have seen everything. When we got to New York, we were tired and dirty, but so excited. Listen, Celie, New York is a beautiful city, and colored own a whole section of it called Harlem. There are colored people in more fancy motor cars than I thought existed, and living in houses that are finer than any white person's house down home. There are more than 100 churches, and we went to every one of them. And I stood before each congregation with Samuel and Corinne and the children, and sometimes our mouths just dropped open from the generosity and goodness of those Harlem people's hearts. They live in such beauty and dignity. And they give and then reach down and give some more when the name Africa is mentioned. They love Africa. They defend it at the drop of a hat. And speaking of hats, if we had passed our hats alone, they would not have been enough to hold all the donations to our enterprise. Even the children dredged up their pennies. Please give these to the children of Africa, they said. They were all dressed so beautifully too, Celie. I wish you could have seen them. There is a fashion in Harlem now for boys to wear something called knickers, sort of baggy pants, fitted tight just below the knee, and for girls to wear garlands of flowers in their hair. They must be the most beautiful children alive, and Adam and Olivia couldn't take their eyes off them. Then there were diners. Then there were dinners we were invited to. The breakfasts, the lunches, and suppers. I gained 5 pounds just from tasting. I was too excited to really eat. And all the people have indoor toilets, Sealy, and gas or electric lights. Well, we had 2 weeks of study in Olinka dialect, which the people in the region speak. Then we were examined by a doctor who was colored and given medical supplies for ourselves and for the host village by the Missionary Society of New York. It is run by white people, and they didn't say anything about caring about Africa, but only about duty. There is already a white woman missionary not far from our village who has lived in Africa for the past 20 years. She is said to be much loved by the natives, even though she thinks they are an entirely different species from what she calls Europeans. Europeans are white people who live in a place called Europe. That is where the white people down home come from. She says an African daisy and an English daisy are both flowers, but totally different kinds. The man at the society says she is successful because she doesn't coddle her charges. She also speaks their language. He is a white man who looks at us as if we cannot possibly be as good with the Africans as this woman. My spirit sort of dropped after being at the society. On every wall, there was a picture of a white man, somebody called Specky, somebody called Livingston, somebody called Dally, or was it Stanley? I looked for a picture of the white woman, but didn't see one. Samuel looked a little sad too, but then he perked up and reminded us that there's one big advantage we have. We are not white. We are not Europeans. We are Black like the Africans themselves, and that we and the Africans will be working for a common goal to the uplift of Black people everywhere. Your sister, Nettie. Samuel is a big man. He dresses in black almost all the time, except for his white clerical collar. And he is Black until you see his eyes. You think he's somber, even mean, but he has the most thoughtful and gentle brown eyes. When he says something, it settles you because he never says anything off the top of his head, and he's never out to dampen your spirit or to hurt. Corinne is a lucky woman to have him as her husband. But let me tell you about the ship. The ship, called the Malaga, was 3 stories high, and we had rooms called cabins with beds. Oh, Seely, to lie in a bed on the middle of the ocean, and the ocean, Seely, more water than you can imagine in one place. It took us 2 weeks to cross it, and then we were in England, which is a country full of white people, and some of them very nice, and with their own anti-slavery and missionary society. The churches in England were also very eager to help us, and white men and women who looked just like the ones at home invited us to their gatherings and into their homes for tea and to talk about our work. Tea to the English is really a picnic indoors. Plenty of sandwiches and cookies, of course, and of course, hot tea. We all use the same cups and plates. Everyone said I seemed very young to be a missionary, but Samuel said that I was very willing, and that anyway, my primary duties would be helping with the children and teaching a kindergarten class or two. Our work began to seem somewhat clearer in England because the English have been sending missionaries to Africa and India and China, and God knows where all, for over 100 years, and the things they have brought back. We spent a morning in one of their museums, and it was packed with jewels, furniture, fur carpets, swords, clothing, even tombs from all the countries they have been. From Africa, they have thousands of vases, jars, masks, bowls, baskets, statues, and they are all so beautiful. It is hard to imagine that the people who made them don't still exist. And yet the English assure us they do not. Although Africans once had a better civilization than the European, though of course even the English do not say this. I get this from reading a man named J.A. Rogers. For several centuries, they have fallen on hard times. Hard times is a phrase the English love to use when speaking of Africa, and it is easy to forget that Africa's hard times were made harder by them. Millions and millions of Africans were captured and sold into slavery. You and me, Seeley, and whole cities were destroyed by slave catching wars. Today, the people of Africa, having murdered or sold into slavery their strongest folks, are riddled by disease and sunk in spiritual and physical confusion. They believe in the devil and worship the dead, nor can they read or write. Why did they sell us? How could they have done it? And why do we still love them? These were the thoughts I had as I tramped through the chilly streets of London. I studied England on a map, so neat and serene, and I became hopeful. In spite of myself, that much good for Africa is possible. Even given hard work and the right frame of mind, and then we sailed for Africa, leaving Southampton, England on the 24th of July and arriving in Monrovia, Liberia on the 12th of September. On the way, we stopped in Lisbon, Portugal, and Dakar, Senegal. Monrovia, Monrovia was the last place we were among people we were somewhat used to, since it is an African country that was founded by ex-slaves from America who came back to Africa to live. Had any of their parents and grandparents been sold from Monrovia? I wondered. And what was their feeling once sold as slaves, now coming back with close ties to the country that brought them to rule? Seeley, I must stop now. The sun is not so hot. The sun is not so hot now, and I must prepare for the afternoon classes and vesper service. I wish you were with me, or I with you. My love, your sister, Nettie. Dearest Seeley, it was the funniest thing to stop over in Monrovia after my first glimpse of Africa, which was Senegal. The capital of Senegal is Dakar, and the people speak their own language, Senegalese, I guess they would call it, and French. They are the blackest people I have ever seen. Seeley, they are black, like the people we are talking about when we say so and so is blacker than black, he's blue black. They are so black, Seeley, that they shine, which is something else folks down home like to say about real black folks. But Seeley, try to imagine a city full of these shining blue black people wearing brilliant blue robes with designs like fancy quilt patterns, tall, thin, with long necks and straight backs. Can you picture it all, Seeley? Because I felt like I was seeing black for the first time. And Seeley, there is something magical about it, because the black is so black, the eye is simply dazzled. And then there's the shining that seems to come, really from moonlight. It is so luminous, but their skin glows even in the sun. But I did not really like the Senegalese I met in the market. They were concerned only with their sale of produce. If we did not buy, they looked through us as quickly as they looked through the white French people who lived there. Somehow, I had not expected to see any white people in Africa, but they are here in droves, and not all are missionaries. There are bunches of them in Monrovia, too, and the president, whose last name is Tubman, has, uh, has some in his cabinet. He also has a lot of white-looking colored men in his cabinet. On our second evening in Monrovia, we had tea at the presidential palace. It looks very much like the American White House, where our president lives, Samuel says. The president talked a good bit about his efforts trying to develop the country and about his problems with the natives who don't want to work to help build the country up. It was the first time I'd heard a black man use that word. I knew that two white people, all colored people, are natives. But he cleared his throat and said he only meant native to Liberia. I did not see any of these natives in his cabinet, and none of the cabinet members' wives could pass for natives. Compared to them, in their silks and pearls, Corinne and I were barely dressed, let alone dressed for the occasion. But I think the women we saw at the palace spend a lot of their time dressing. Still, they look dissatisfied, not like the cheery school teachers we saw only by chance as they herded their classes down to the beach for a swim. Before we left, we visited one of the large cacao plantations they have. Nothing but cacao trees as far as the eye can see. The whole village is built right in the middle of the fields. We watched the weary families come from work, still carrying the cacao seed buckets in their hands. These double as lunch buckets next day. And sometimes, if they are women, their children on their backs, as tired as they sing. Seely, just like we do at home. Why do tired people sing? I asked Corinne. Too tired to do anything else, she said. Besides, they don't own the cacao fields, Seely. Even President Tubman doesn't own them. People in a place called Holland do. The people who make Dutch chocolate. And there are overseers who make sure people work hard, who live in the stone houses in the corners of the fields. Again, I must go. Everyone is in bed, and I am writing by lamplight. But the light is attracting too many bugs, and I'm being eaten alive. I have bites everywhere, including my scalp and the bottoms of my feet. But did I mention my first sight of the African coast? Something struck in me, in my soul, Celie, like a large bell, and I just vibrated. Corinne and Samuel felt the same, and we kneeled down right on the deck and gave thanks to God for letting us see the land for which our mothers and fathers cried and lived and died, to see again. Oh, Celie, will I ever be able to tell you all? I dare not ask. I know. I dare not ask, I know, but leave it all to God. Your ever loving sister, Nettie. Dear God, what with shock, crying and blowing my nose and trying to puzzle out words us don't know, it took a long time to read just the first two letters or three. By the time us got up to where she good and settled in Africa, Mr. and Grady come home. Can you handle it? Asked Shug. How I'm gonna keep from killing him, I say. Don't kill, she say. Nettie be coming home before long. Don't make her have to look at you like us look at Sophia. But it's so hard, I say, while Shug emptied her suitcase and put the letters inside. Hard to be Christ, too, say Shug, but he managed. Remember that? Thou shalt not kill, he said, and probably wanted to add on to that, starting with me. He knowed the fools he was dealing with. But Mr. Not Christ, I'm not Christ, I say. And somebody to Nettie, she say. And she be pissed if you change on her while she on her way home. Us here, Grady and Mr. in the kitchen. Dishes rattling, safe door open and shut. Now I think I feel better if I kill Nah, I think I feel better if I kill him, I say. I feel sickish, numb now. No, you won't. Nobody feel better for killing nothing. They feel something is all. That better than nothing. Celie, she say, Nettie not the only one you got to worry about. Say what? I asked. Me, Celie. Think about me a little bit, Miss Celie. If you kill Albert, Grady be all I got left. I can't even stand the thought of that. I laugh, thinking about Grady's big tooths. Make Albert let me sleep with you from now on while you here, I say. And somehow or other, she do. All right. I think that's a good place to stop. We finally are getting to the letters from Nettie, and that's a great part of the story. Anywho, I'll be back next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m., possibly in makeup and a look again. I don't know. We'll see. But I hope you enjoyed the reading. Have a wonderful evening. Smooches. Bye.